A federal lawsuit points the finger at more than a dozen major universities who have been colluding to limit financial aid. Meanwhile, these schools have also overcharged students to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. Attorney Sara Papantonio joins me to talk about this. Sara, tell us about the scandal. What are the colleges involved with, and what are they doing to cause this lawsuit to take place?
So what we have is a lot of top-tier colleges, a lot of these Ivy League colleges. And what they're doing is they're promising young 18-year-olds, people getting ready to go to college, hey, we're giving everyone the perfect shot. We're treating you all equally. Wealth doesn't matter. All we care about is your academics. All we care about is what's in your brain. Mm-hmm. They're telling them that. They're saying we're not making decisions based on need. But then behind closed doors, once that student has gotten that admission ticket, once they're in the school, what these colleges are doing is they're getting together and they're colluding, and they're limiting the amount of financial aid that one student that they promised they weren't going to make decisions based on need really needs to actually go to that school. So these schools are working together to create these financial aid formulas that ultimately get the lowest amount of financial aid possible and restrict competition. So it restricts the student's ability to make decisions on where they go to school based on the amount of financial aid that they receive. Yeah,
so there's a backstory here that I think is interesting. The backstory appears to be that if you're at Harvard, you have these legacy types that you want in there. You have you have very wealthy parents who want to send their children there. There is that idea of who do we want to attract? You see, they want to attract those folks. And if you have a student who's saying, I'm here to get money because I need financial aid to go to school, that kind of sends a signal, doesn't it? That maybe their parents aren't those wealthy people that Harvard wants. I think Harvard has the biggest endowment program in the United States, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, the problem is that these schools don't have enough foresight to see what they're missing out on. They've got programs where if the parents are donors, then they're going to give a favorable eye to those students who apply. If they are legacy students, then they're going to give a favorable eye to those. Mm-hmm. And then these people who promise, the students that they promise they're not going to make wealth-based decisions, are getting the short end of the stick. But those low-income students who need the money are going to be the movers, they're going to be the shakers, they're going to be the true people. Yeah, they're going to be the people who come back to the school 50 years from now and talk about their experience, and they're going to be the important ones for that institution.
And more importantly, a place like Harvard, they're not all going to end up on Wall Street. Maybe they're going to do some work out there in the world that actually benefits people. Now, so how have they escaped federal regulations? Because tell us, there's a need-blind kind of support of this. What is that?
Right, that's kind of how they're finagling their way into this situation. Basically, they promise students in the admission process that they're need blind, meaning they're not making the decision based on their financial status. But then the next layer of that is if this institution is a need blind institution, then it gives them the opportunity to collude financial aid formulas with a host of different schools. Here we've got about 16 different schools that all come together and share their financial aid formula. Mm-hmm. So what happens is all of these schools end up giving the same amount of financial aid. So basically they're manipulating the formula to get the least amount of financial aid so that their net benefit of tuition is more in the end.
I got it. So I got to tell you, the lawyers that are bringing this case are serious lawyers. I've worked with them. They wouldn't bring this unless they thought there was a smoking gun there, and they're going to be digging for that. I wonder how did their actions affect the admissions process? Who benefited from all this?
Well, obviously the school benefits, right? Because what happens is they're restricting competition among the schools. They're not giving students the opportunity to say, hey, Yale is offering me this much money, but Duke is offering me even more. I'm going to go to Duke. Mm-hmm. Yale and Duke are now offering the same amount, so both stand to benefit from that student going to the school. Mm-hmm. They're restricting competition among the schools so that all of these 16 schools can make the same amount of money in the end.
This isn't the first time we've seen Ivy League schools get busted for this kind of thing. Talk about that just a little bit.
Right. It's historic. It's across the board in these institutions. It's been happening since the 1990s, and that's why actually these federal regulations came in place. We've got schools like Harvard, these Ivy Leagues who collude with each other and say, I'll offer this student this much money if you give us Johnny. You can take Sally if we take Ben. So it's this idea that they all work together to kind of manipulate the system and dictate who goes where.
Yeah, well, it's definitely colluding and antitrust on its face. But I think the thing that's most bothersome to me is it's kind of that they get a look, don't they? I mean, the applications are coming through. this person comes from this neighborhood, this person has no independent way to pay their way through this college. Why should we bring them on? Because in years to come, we're going to count on that family to help support this university, or that student to help support this university. So that's a big part of this. I really think that's kind of an underlying issue here.
Yeah, and that's what the lawsuit's alleging. They're alleging not only is this collusion process, but these schools, at least half of these schools, are violating that federal regulation of the need blind. They're purporting themselves to be a need blind school, but what they're really doing is taking a pass at that application, like you just talked about, and said, oh, hey, Johnny lives in this neighborhood. We know that that's a low-income neighborhood. Let's push him aside.
Yeah, because those endowments, I mean, look, we've all been there where every month we get something, we need this, we need that. And like I say, Harvard and the Ivy League schools, they have the biggest endowments in the country. Sarah, thank you for joining me, okay?
Thanks for having me.